What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Tsukishiro Yanagi's EP, Rest Awhile. I imagine that this will not be as insane of a lore drop as her teaser was, but regardless of that, I am very excited for this. I've been really enjoying her character so far in game. I haven't gone through the story yet, but I've already pulled for her, and she's been a lot of fun so far. So, let's just get right into this. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and let's get into this. Okay, sound of train. Mute home from work, question mark? Okay. A clock. So I'm not exactly sure what the clock iconography does for her. Okay. Is this gonna be like almost a little city poppy? Lumina Square, okay. I very much enjoy when we can actually pick out where we are in the city. Yeah, this is totally like mellow city pop. I'm vibing with it. Oh, interesting visuals. I assume this is her when she gets home, essentially. Is she drunk? Or is she just... I think she's drunk. Ooh. Interesting, like, synth going on there. Interesting to see the pillars. Is she late for something?
I'm home. Sorry I'm so...
Yanagi, you're so late!
Oh.
Sorry. But look what I got.
Oh, my heart.
Hot pot! Hot pot!
Oh, my heart, she lives with Sokaku.
Where are your glasses?
Huh?
Oh, my poor heart, she lives with Sokaku. Alright, so this is really fun. This is really cute and very mellow, all things considered. Like I mentioned in the reaction, this very much has that mellow city pop style to it, and I'm all for that. I can enjoy that from time to time. And generally, this just seems like it is following an average night for Yanagi coming home from work late, picking up dinner, and stumbling home. We open with her sleeping on the train, or the subway, or whatever, but we just get that as just a brief snippet before the music really starts. And then as the music begins, we have this sort of interesting shot of a sign at the, like, subway station being, like, an exit up into the city, presumably. And I just find it interesting the way it's cut. What the shot is actually showing us is just this top end and some of the wiring and electronics of the sign. It's not really anything too crazy, it's just sort of interesting framing to me. But the main thing we get from this here is how late she's out. We can't see the first half of the times here, but based on the fact that the current current subway trains that are going are listing times this late implies that she's out here in the middle of the night. She's getting home very late. And I like how it all turns off, fades to the city skyline as the music just begins to build a little to just the beginning of the song. And we get the shot of this clock. And what I was briefly mentioning when we first saw this was that it very much seems like clocks and time have a big relevancy to her aesthetic and character for reasons I'm not entirely sure of yet. Because her weapon has a little clock on it that I actually saw something recently of someone mentioning that supposedly it actually is synced to the in-game time for like real life, which is just an interesting detail. But then also her signature W engine is called Time Weaver, I believe, which implies time travel, or at the very least time manipulation. And a lot of her abilities and techniques seem to have her going supernaturally fast, potentially manipulating time in some way. So I don't really know what the reason for that is. Maybe that gets answered in the story. I have not done that yet, so I wouldn't know. Regardless of that, it's just interesting. It's an ongoing theme with her of clocks and time. And then we see her out in like a coat and with a scarf. It's laid out. It clearly is in the winter or something. It's snowing, at least later. As the lyrics come in, they're not in English, but we luckily have the subtitles so we can get a sense of them. I'm not going to go line to line like I did with her teaser or my usual stuff, because typically speaking, the lyrics will have relevance to the character, but won't have as concrete and direct information necessarily. To get into this, pause time, rest a while. Once again, that theme of time, but then also the idea that she's been working a long time. It's time to stop, take a break, rest a bit. As she just sort of takes a breath, having stopped moving, as the lyrics speak what she's doing. Breathe the air, fresh and light, as she opens her eyes and looks sort of across her shoulder, adjusting her glasses. We see a stop sign blinking, a plane going by, the line, "A weary heart begins to heal." Not exactly sure what that's in reference to, but perhaps just the idea that it's been a long day, time to rest so that I can recover for tomorrow. And then we see some nice food, some hot pot. I believe that presumably the place she is the one hot pot place in Lumina Square that we know about. I'm forgetting the name of it though. But given that we know that that has like notoriously spicy food, I could see that being some of the reason why she's sweating so much or whatever, is she just is eating some really spicy hot pot. But it's also potentially other reasons. But regardless, it then has the line, "In quiet wonder beyond control." Not exactly sure what that means on its own. But then we get this shot of her having taken off one of her heels, just sort of toying with it with her foot a little bit. I have some thoughts of maybe why this shot is here, but it also just shows that she's trying to relax a little bit while she's sat here having a meal. Much like how in her demo, we saw that after a long day, her heels are very uncomfortable to continuously wear, which makes sense. She wouldn't want them on constantly. But then the lyrics say, "When it's cold, the air barely flows." As she sort of fans herself, she's sweating. Realistically, the only reason I can think of is the hot pot thing. I don't really know. But either way, it serves as a contrast of the warmth of the building versus the cold of outside, as the lyrics are referencing to the cold outside. But we can see she's taken off her overcoat and stuff. She's glancing around. She's flushed, either from heat or from alcohol or something. My guess is on alcohol, given how she sort of stumbles around later. And the lyrics continue saying, "Just little joys are enough." Perhaps speaking to the idea that her life is deeply tied up in her work and her responsibilities, whether that be the responsibilities of her job or the responsibilities to the Oni that we learned about in her teaser. All those responsibilities are important things that take most of her time, but as long as she can just have these little joys, like having a good meal, breathing the fresh air, getting a red bean bun occasionally if we're to reference the demo, those are enough for her to keep going. Scenes of life, as we once again get the shot of the turned off subway sign, but now it begins to snow. As the light dims, we get a shot of Lumina Square, and then we cut to her panning up from where she's sitting with the line, "Held deep within, quiet as snowflakes," as it fades to the outside in the wind, a clear voice. And we have a shot of the movie theater, some posters, echoes from the skies. As she moves around, looks at the cityscape as it begins to snow, returning to the clock, turn the clock as we proceed. even the lyrics are referencing it. In this case, presumably just referencing the continuous marching of time. But then as we just have her walking along the sidewalk, the lyrics say, "Taste the joy in every beat." As she stumbles around with a bag, fireworks bloom within my soul. As we see her sort of mirrored in the poster of what, like I said in the reaction, is presumably what she wants to do when she gets home. She kicks off her shoes, she unbuttons her shirt a little, and then drops down onto presumably a bed, but we can't see that because it's just the signs and the billboards and stuff. But I really like how they sort of cut her up here a little bit, of having it imply a cohesive image, but cut between two signs, and then a side view here, but all like this cohesive thing. And as she sort of heavy-lidded stumbles forward, face still flushed, hence why I think she's probably a little bit drunk, the lyrics continue with, "In quiet wonder beyond control, longing for bonds, dreams held tight." I suppose it's speaking to, well, of course, that longing for bonds, as it says, that yearning for connection, the dream to have those connections and maintain them, and that being something she holds close to her. Potentially her connection to Sokaku and the Oni, her coworkers, something along those lines. Typically with lines like this, I'd expect them to be talking about someone who feels lonely, but I never really got that from her character from what I've seen of her. Perhaps she is. Perhaps this is a little bit of a hint towards yearning for romance, but I can't really see any other way other than potentially hint of yearning romance, given the fact that she effectively has a daughter. She has people I would presume she considers friends in her coworkers. So I don't know necessarily. Either it's her trying to maintain those bonds and yearning to keep those bonds, or she feels like something is still missing despite the bonds she has and she's yearning for more bonds. I'm not exactly sure with that. It's entirely possible it's just a line in the song and it's not actually meant to represent anything about her specifically, but I don't know, that's some of my interpretations, just off the cuff. And I also really find the way she sort of balances with her arms out really cute, as it's just a fun little playful thing. We don't really see her playful side much in anything else so far. Like, she gets a bit goofy at times when she's like surprised or whatever in her demo. Like, we haven't really seen her casually enjoying walking down the street, that kind of thing before. So it's just sort of fun to see, especially with how she sort of stumbles. And continuing with the theme of the previous line, the lyrics say, "Escaping loneliness takes courage to try." And once again, I don't really know what this is referencing unless she does still feel like there is something missing, some connection she lacks. But I don't necessarily know what that missing connection is. Gains in life, the lyrics say, as the sign we saw earlier now is blinking green so that she can walk across the street. Simple and plain, she just walks with her fingers like a small boat against the tide. The cold night warms. So obviously this is a metaphor of some kind for presumably Yanagi, a small boat being her, I would assume, moving against the tide. So she's moving against something. There is an amount of tension, amount of pushback, an amount of conflict towards where she's going, even if it's just purely internal. The cold night warms. Perhaps the idea that though the night is cold, as I move towards these things I wish to achieve, speaking to the previous lines potentially, these bonds I wish to have and keep, as I move towards those, the night doesn't feel as cold anymore. Maybe that, potentially? I don't know. But a visual detail I'd like to just acknowledge is I like how in the snow her footprints actually make sense for the heels she's in. That's just like a little detail I enjoy, because in a lot of like animated media or stuff, they don't always have correct footprints, and that's just a nice touch. Stars grace the sky. Potentially continuing from the previous line, the cold night warms as stars grace the sky. A light shines above her as she seemingly sneezes or whatever, presumably from the cold. In which case, maybe what it actually is talking about is the idea that in this cold night, being this boat moving against the tide, it's lonely, it's dark and cold, and a struggle to keep going, but then there is this star in the sky that shines down on me and shows me the way forward. I don't know what that star is for Yanagi. Maybe it's Sokaku, maybe it's the Oni as a whole. I could see that. I imagine that her taking care of the Oni and Sokaku specifically probably means a lot to her. So maybe that's it. Maybe prior to taking on the will of the former leader of the Oni, maybe she was this aimlessly drifting boat going against the tide, trying to do what she believed in, trying to keep going forward the best she could, but she didn't have that purpose, that connection, that bond, and only once she stepped into the role of the protector and caretaker of the Oni that she found that purpose and that bond in people like Sokaku. I could see that. That is, I think, my best interpretation of this so far. But moving on, we have her just looking up at this shining light, and we have her, when looking up at it sort of in wonder, smile as it cuts to the clock striking midnight. Feelings in life, as she starts moving with purpose, both dark and light. I'm blessed to be on this journey by your side, like the moonlight, as she's hurrying along as best she can, checking her phone potentially for any messages or the time. But clearly something has shifted here. This light has shown itself, and now there is a bond to be had. There is someone to be there with, and it shines like the moonlight, creating this contrast between light and dark. Okay, actually finishing out that line, like the moonlight that follows the sunshine. That contrast of light and dark. There is the moonlight that comes from the darkness of night when the sun sets. Even though the brightest star in the sky sets down beneath the horizon and the world is encompassed in darkness, its light still shines down, even if faintly. That connection is still there, that reliance is still there, that purpose is still there. But that's essentially where the song ends. As it fades out, we have her opening the door. We have her in a dark hallway, opening the door, light shining out at her as she says, "I'm home. Sorry I'm so," and then is sort of cut off. As we learn, Sokaku is there. And it warms my heart in such an immense fashion to learn that it's not just that Yanagi takes care of Sokaku at work, but they actually live together. They are mother and daughter, or at the very least, big sister and little sister. No denying that. And that is so wholesome. I love it. As while she's apologizing that she's late, Sokaku's complaining that she's late, very much in the way a child would when their parent gets back. But Yanagi apologizes, and essentially as apology goes, "But look what I've got." She got hot pot dinner for Sokaku, and suddenly she's not upset, she's just excited, because as we know, Sokaku loves food, and Yanagi knows that, and so, of course, she gets excited about that, and it's just wholesome. I love it. And that's where it's left. With the last lines just being a little fun joke of Sokaku realizing Yanagi doesn't have her glasses, which she doesn't in these shots, that's true, where compared to the beginning, she does, implying that she accidentally left them potentially at the restaurant or something, and she just, in her sort of tired, aimless, potentially drunk state, forgot to pick them back up. And it's just a little cute thing to be like, oh no, I forgot my glasses. And it's also just amusing the idea that she didn't notice the entire way back home. It's just cute, it's a fun way to end it, and overall, this entire thing is just a great mellow vibe, really wholesome, especially the end, and I think I landed on a good assessment of what the song is trying to get at. I don't know if it's exactly what it's intending, I don't know if it's even a correct assessment of it, but I like the idea of her having her own ideals and hopes and beliefs, but that even with those, she found herself questioning things and pushing against her superiors and questioning if what she's doing is the best thing for her, if it's the right thing, but only then when she comes into her position as the guardian of the Oni does she truly find that purpose and that connection and that bond and believe that she is where she's supposed to be and has that guiding light forward. I like that as an interpretation. So I think that's sort of where I'll leave it. I'm a big fan of this. It's real fun, real mellow, very different from Bernice's, but that is to be expected, where Bernice is sort of peak brain rot. This is peak just sort of mellow chill vibes of a adult woman coming home from work. I just like it. It's fun. So with that though, I'll leave it there because I think I've sort of touched on everything I can. I hope you enjoyed it too. Feel free to like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment on your thoughts, and I hope you all had a great day, and goodbye.